Chapter 1: The Red Wedding. I smelled him before I saw him. Leather, cigarettes, and something animal, sweat or blood. Maybe both. It cut through the cologne and rose petals the decorators had wasted on this farce of a peace ceremony. I kept my eyes forward, fingers laced neatly in front of me. The perfect groom. I wasn't nervous. But when Lucian swaggered through the cathedral doors, late, shirt slightly wrinkled, tie missing, I felt my jaw tighten. He was laughing at me already. I could see it in the way he walked. Head high, shoulders loose, like nothing in the world could touch him. Like this wasn't a marriage but a joke. A leash he planned to chew through before nightfall. Christ, I muttered under my breath. He cleans up for a mongrel. My father whispered beside me. I didn't respond. Cyril Vale liked to provoke. It was how he kept himself entertained during deals he'd already won. Lucian's eyes met mine across the aisle, and for half a second, everything around us dulled. I saw the exact moment he decided to test me. That stupid grin tugged at his mouth like he'd just found a new toy to break. He stopped 3 paces from me, smirked. Miss me? I didn't flinch. You're late, he shrugged. Fashionably. And unarmed, I hope? Oh, sweetheart, do I look unarmed? He leaned in just a little. I stepped back. Barely. You look like a threat to common sense. Good. Then we're evenly matched. The officiant, some puppet we'd paid to pretend this was holy, cleared his throat and launched into the script. I let the words wash over me, meaningless. All I focused on was Lucian's breathing. Steady. Relaxed. Mine wasn't. Not that I'd show it. I, Lucian Knox, take Adrian Vale, political parasite and uptight bastard, to be my lawfully wedded. He began lazily. Read. The vows. I snapped under my breath. He winked at me. Fine. Ruin the moment. He read them. Badly. Then it was my turn. I, Adrian Vale, accept this alliance with Lucian Knox to ensure the cessation of violence between our syndicates. I pledge obedience to the terms of the treaty, loyalty to the cause of unity, and tolerance of this partnership. Lucian whistled under his breath. Didn't even try to sound like a human. I'm not marrying you, I'm marrying peace. I hissed. Same thing. You'll hate both in a week. The kiss. God. The kiss. I thought he might be civil. Just touch lips, make it quick. But no. Lucian grabbed my jaw with one hand, touched me, and kissed me like we were something. Like this was his idea. I didn't kiss back. I stood there, frozen, blood boiling, because anything else would have been a win for him. When he pulled back, he was already grinning. Tastes like regret. I wiped my mouth. Tastes like ash. Hours later, in the suite, I locked the door behind me and immediately ripped off the ceremonial jacket. I could still feel his hand on my face, the heat of his body pressed too close. He wasn't supposed to touch me. I poured bourbon into a glass and drank it in one go. The burn helped. The door creaked open behind me. I didn't say you could come in, I said without turning. Didn't hear you say I couldn't, Lucian replied. I turned slowly. He'd stripped down to a black tank and loose pants, barefoot on the polished floor like a ghost with attitude. This is my room, I told him. We're married. It's our room. No, it's my room. There's a guest suite down the hall. You can piss on the walls in there. He laughed. You really think I care about bedsheets? You care about pissing me off. And it won't end well. He stepped closer. I held my ground. What are you gonna do? Call your daddy? He asked, voice dropping. No, but I could have your car blown up on your next coffee run. A beat of silence. Then he smiled wider. You do talk dirty when you're angry. I shoved the bourbon glass into his chest. He caught it instinctively. Drink, then leave, I said. He did. Finished the glass in one gulp, then looked at me like he was tasting more than whiskey. I'm gonna enjoy breaking you, Vale. You won't. I already started. He left without another word, and I stood in the silence, alone, breathing too hard for a man in control. Chapter 2: Poison Vows. He was already in the kitchen, shirtless. Again. I stood in the doorway, letting my silence say everything. Lucian leaned against the marble island, back to me, shoveling eggs into his mouth like he hadn't eaten in days. One of my precision knives, was stuck into the cutting board beside him, coated in something that better not have been blood. He didn't turn around. "Morning, husband." I breathed in once. Slow. Measured. "Don't you have a shirt?" He turned. That kitchen was designed by an Italian architect. Custom imported tile. Brushed chrome. Now it smelled like grease and burnt garlic. I walked in and set the day's reports on the table. Didn't look at him. Didn't acknowledge the fact that he was barefoot, tattooed, and somehow still smug with egg on his chin. "You're not authorized to use the kitchen," I said. "Didn't realize I needed a passcode to make breakfast. Because you don't cook. You make a mess. I made food. For you." He pointed at a second plate on the counter. I glanced at it. Toast. Fried eggs. Bacon. Unbelievable. "You'd rather starve than admit I did something nice," Lucian muttered. I walked past him and poured myself a black coffee. Nice implies intention. You lit a $5,000 stove on fire. That's not nice. That's arson. He snorted. "God. How do you breathe with that stick shoved so far up your spine?" "Through clenched teeth," I said. We ate in silence. He devoured everything like he was preparing for war. Which, to be fair, he probably was. I watched him from the corner of my eye. Every time he cut something, his grip was wrong. Too much wrist. Too much brute force. Everything about Lucian screamed chaos. He walked like he was used to dodging bullets and sleeping with one eye open. He didn't belong here. Neither did I, but I made it look good. He didn't even try. Later, I was halfway through debrief reports when I heard the music. Bass heavy. Off-key. Bleeding down the hallway from the east wing, my wing. I rose from the desk, smoothed my shirt cuffs, and headed down the corridor like I was heading to war. Which I was. Lucian had the door open. Of course. He was on the couch in the library. Feet on the table, shirt still missing, scrolling through my private vinyl collection. I stopped in the doorway. "That's mine." He didn't look up. "They were gathering dust. I'm helping." "You're trespassing." He finally looked at me. "Do you label your rooms? Or do people just naturally assume you're unbearable?" I walked in, stepped between him and the player, and lowered the volume to silence. His gaze followed me. "You always this tense, Vale? Or is it just me?" "It's not tension. It's control." "Same thing, isn't it?" I didn't answer. He leaned forward, forearms on his knees. "Let me guess. You color-code your socks. Eat dinner at exactly 7. You haven't cried since you were 6. And when you did, you apologized to the mirror after." I met his stare. "You want to test me. I get it. That's what you people do." "You people? Untrained dogs who mistake pain for love." A flicker passed across his face. Not anger. Something worse. Recognition. But then it was gone and he smiled. "You're cute when you moralize." "I'm not moralizing. I'm warning you," I said. He stood. Slow. Walked toward me until I had to tilt my head up slightly to meet his gaze. "That why you haven't kicked me out yet? Because deep down you like the warning signs?" He said. "I haven't kicked you out because the cameras are still watching, right? And after the cameras stop watching." He smiled, but his voice dropped. "Then I'll have you moved to the basement. With the rats." "Rats bite," he said. "So do I." That night, he didn't sleep in the guest room. I heard him pacing the hallway outside mine, steps too slow to be casual. Like he wanted me to hear them, like he knew I was listening. And I was. My heart beat steady, but my mind didn't. I lay in bed, eyes open, staring at the ceiling as Lucian moved through my house like a ghost with bad intentions. This was day 1. There were still 364 left. I thought about my vow. I, Adrian Vale, pledge obedience to the terms of the treaty. Obedience, tolerance, restraint. I never realized, until now, how much those words would taste like blood. Chapter 3, Black Contract. The first lie was that the war was over. I'd read the files 3 times now. Silent, still jaw locked so tight my teeth ached. One page bled into the next, but the message didn't change. There'd been an unauthorized movement of arms last night. Not from some outsider. From inside the Veil Syndicate. My side. I closed the folder with a click that echoed in the cold office. Then I sat back, folded my hands, and stared at the wall like it owed me an explanation. This marriage wasn't a solution. It was bait, and someone was already pulling the trigger. Lucian knocked once and walked in before I answered. No shirt again. Of course. Just a pair of joggers slung low on his hips and that same fuck the rules energy that made every muscle in my body lock the moment he entered a room. I didn't move. He glanced at the closed folder on my desk. That the one that made your face look like a funeral? I'm always this charming, I said without looking up. He wandered toward my liquor cabinet without asking and poured himself something dark. I watched him over steepled fingers. His posture was too casual. But I'd seen the way he held a gun, the way he kissed. There was nothing casual about Lucian. I need you dressed, I said. He raised an eyebrow. Into roleplay already? For a meeting. Neutral ground. Tonight. With who? Our inner circle. Veil, Knox, and third-party syndicate brokers. Show of peace. Symbolic handshake. You remember those from school? I skipped charm school. Too busy learning to stab people. I stood. Then try not to stab anyone tonight. He finished his drink and licked the rim just to piss me off. No promises. Hours later, at the safe house in Southborough. I hated this place. Low ceilings. Flickering lights. Air thick with cigarette smoke and bad intentions. I kept my shoulders straight and my face unreadable. Lucian, beside me, looked like he belonged here. Leaning against the wall like he might start a brawl just to pass the time. There were 12 people in the room. Not one of them I'd trust with my second drink, let alone my life. Cyril Vale wasn't among them. He wouldn't risk stepping into a meeting without full control. That was what he had me for. Lucian's side sent Elias Brandt, Knox Consigliere, cold eyes, limp from an old gunshot wound. He shook my hand with the warmth of a snake preparing to shed. We're all here, let's begin, he said. But something was off. Too quiet, too smooth. Every word felt rehearsed. 10 minutes in, it hit me. Lucian shifted behind me, just slightly. Tension I'd seen before in combat, not conversation. My hand moved under the table, tapped the signal against his thigh. 1, 2, pause. Trouble? He didn't answer out loud. But his hand rested on the grip of the pistol under his coat. Elias smiled. Before we discuss the asset transfer, let's talk leverage. Excuse me, I said. You know what I mean. The union. The happy couple. We all need reassurance this wasn't a bluff. He looked between us. You want a proof of consummation clause? I said, voice flat. Someone snickered in the corner. Lucian didn't laugh. Neither did I. Not legally binding, I said. Elias raised an eyebrow. It's a show of faith. Just a kiss. Right here. Right now. Lucian turned his head slightly, eyes locking with mine. I didn't blink. No. Elias leaned back. Then maybe the truce isn't as real as we thought. The lights went out. Gunfire followed. I hit the floor behind the table, gun already drawn. Lucian was faster. He flipped the table in one violent motion and yanked me behind it by my collar. I landed hard against his chest. He didn't let go. Ambush, I hissed. No shit. 3 rounds cracked over our heads. Wood splintered. Someone screamed. Lucian returned fire without hesitation. 2 shots. Precise. Efficient. I shoved the backup pistol into his hand. We need to move. There's only one exit, and they're covering it. He growled. Then we make one. 15 minutes later, we were running through the basement hallway, both bleeding. I was never a runner. I delegate, strategize, direct. But tonight I ran. Lucian kicked open the steel door at the far end. The fire escape was blocked with crates. He climbed over them like it was nothing. I followed. Halfway up, I slipped. He caught me. Fist clenched around my coat collar again. yanking me up until we were face to face. Our breathing synced. Ragged. Wild. I hated that I was grateful. I had it, I snapped. Sure you did, princess. I shoved his arm off me and climbed the last steps alone. Later, in the safe house garage. Locked in. Alone. No signal. No backup. No safe return. Just me and Lucian. He was pacing now too fast. Bleeding from a cut near his eye. You knew that wasn't a real meeting? He asked. I looked up. I suspected. And you brought me anyway? You're the only one I trust to keep me alive in a fight. He blinked. Wow. Don't get sentimental. It's temporary. You let me walk into a trap. We walked in together. And we walked out. I stood. Barely. I looked at him. The scar under his lip. The way his hands shook just slightly after adrenaline. The way he hadn't let me fall. He met my stare. What? Nothing. Just reconsidering the terms of our contract. I said, am I being upgraded from dog to attack dog? No. You're still a mutt. Just useful. He laughed. Adrian. What? If we're both gonna die, you should know something. What? I'd still rather be trapped in this garage with you than kiss anyone at that table. I rolled my eyes. Don't romanticize this. I'm not. I'm warning you. Chapter 4, Locked in Enemy Land. It's the silence that hits me first. Not the blood. Not the sting in my shoulder. Not Lucian's breathing, ragged beside me. It's the silence, thick, final, ringing in my ears after the gunfire stopped, that tells me we're alone. Alive, but cornered. I lean my head back against the concrete wall. My suit jacket is half shredded, the white now a wet rust red. My left arm won't move properly. I'm not sure if it's a bullet graze or a clean break. Doesn't matter. I'm not dead. Not yet. Lucian crouches beside the rusted door, listening. His face is smeared with dirt and dried blood. Some his, some not. I scanning every shadow like they might bite. We're locked in, side exits are sealed. He mutters. Fantastic. Our wedding honeymoon's off to a thrilling start. I said. Lucian shoots me a look. That's your idea of a honeymoon? Jesus. No, this is my idea of a trap, I said. He smirks just faintly. You're bleeding. You noticed. Take your jacket off. That's not necessary. Take it off, Vale. His tone isn't a question. I almost argue out of reflex, but then I see the way he's watching me. Not mocking. Focused. Efficient. It's the same tone I use when dressing wounds I don't want to admit I have. I unbutton the jacket slowly. Every movement burns. Lucian watches, then moves in silent. Rips a strip from his already ruined shirt and starts wrapping my arm with sharp, practiced movements. I didn't know you could do first aid, I said. He didn't look up. I didn't know you could bleed. I huff a breath. Try not to sound disappointed. Try not to act like a saint. You've got the same blood as the rest of us. I look at him and I see it. Not the scars. Not the bruises. Those are old. Expected. It's in the eyes. He's tired. Not physically. Not just something worse. A weariness that lives behind the grin, behind the jokes, behind the defiance. You killed 2 of your own tonight, I said. He ties the last knot tight. They weren't mine. They were on your payroll. No, they were on someone's payroll. Just not mine. You sure? Enough. His voice is colder now. Sharper. The way mine gets when someone hits too close. I lean back. So we agree. On what? Someone inside wants us dead. Lucian wipes his hands on the hem of his shirt and sits back on the floor across from me. My money's on Brant. Elias always had a rat's instincts. He wouldn't move without approval from higher up. So who's higher? On my side, I asked. He nods. I don't answer. He notices. Of course he does. You think it's your father. I looked away. He laughs once. Bitter. God. You rich boys really get eaten from the inside, don't you? He sees me as a pawn. And a risk. Why a risk? I hesitate. Lucian leans in. Adrian. Because I think for myself, I finally said. Lucian tilts his head. That's what scares him? No. What scares him is that I'm better than he is. An hour later, the safe house is cold. Electricity's been cut. Our phones are fried. No signal. No help. You always pace when you're cornered? I asked. He stops. Looks at me. I don't get cornered, he said. Not tonight. He didn't answer. Eventually he sits beside me. Not close, but not far either. Just close enough that I can feel the heat of him. We don't speak for a while. The silence stretches, taut as wire. Then he says, back in that meeting when they asked for the kiss. I close my eyes. Don't. You would have done it, right? If I hadn't pulled back. No. He laughs under his breath. Liar. I open my eyes. Turn to him. There's a difference between strategy and humiliation. Even I have a line. I said. Lucian's voice drops low. What if I crossed it? You already did. He didn't flinch. And you're still here. I'm here because you dragged me out of a firefight. You're here because you don't trust anyone else to keep you breathing. He said. You're not wrong, I said quietly. Later, midnight, I drift in and out of sleep, slumped against the wall. My body aches, my arms throbbing. Every time I close my eyes, I see the flash of gunfire, the splatter of blood on Lucian's cheek. A shadow shifts beside me. I stiffen. Lucian settles down next to me, careful not to touch. But he's close. Closer than he should be. I don't tell him to move. I'll take first watch, he said. I nod, almost drifting again. Then, just as I'm slipping under, his voice, soft, just above a whisper. I don't want to kill you, Vale. My breath catches. Not at the words, but the way he says them. Low, tired, honest. I don't answer. But I don't fall asleep either. Chapter 5, Teeth and Tongues. I woke up in enemy arms. His breath was warm against the side of my neck. One arm slung lazily over my waist like I belonged to him. I didn't move, didn't speak. My body screamed from the awkward angle. The bullet graze on my shoulder throbbed, but I didn't make a sound. Lucian slept like someone used to violence. One eye half open, grip never fully relaxed. Even in sleep, his hand flexed against my stomach, just once. A muscle memory, as if he expected me to vanish. I should have pushed him off. I didn't. Instead, I closed my eyes and tried to pretend the warmth didn't feel safe. When I did move, it was sharp, fast. His hand fell away. He stirred, groaned, opened one eye. Morning, princess, he said. Don't call me that. He stretched out, spine cracking audibly, like a damn house cat. We're alive. That's something. I stood and rolled my shoulders, ignoring the pain. Don't touch me again. You were shivering. I kept you warm. You're welcome, he said. I wasn't cold. He smirked. Liar. Later, we found shelter in a crumbling side building. Probably some kind of abandoned butcher's shop. Rusted hooks still hung from the ceiling. The walls were stained with age and other things I didn't want to name. Lucian checked the back entrance. I studied the broken window frames, calculated visibility, escape angles, threat zones. Anything to focus on, because he wouldn't stop watching me. His gaze was heat, pressure, intrusion. You're quiet, he said. You're breathing. I'm working on tuning it out, I replied. He chuckled, stepping closer. Keep trying, Vale. It's only gonna get harder. My gaze snapped to him. Don't test me. I've been testing you since the wedding. Then you're long overdue to fail. Lucian came closer, slow. One step. Another. The click of his boots against concrete was the only sound. I didn't back down. You hate me, he said. Yes. But you want me. I didn't answer. He stepped closer. His voice dropped further, rough at the edges. Say it. No. Say it. I shoved him. He shoved back harder. I slapped him. He grabbed my wrist. And that's when everything shattered. His mouth was on mine before I could stop him. Bruising open, teeth and heat and war. I bit his lip. He groaned into my mouth and slammed me back against the wall, hands gripping my hips like he wanted to leave bruises. Maybe he would. Maybe I wanted him to. My hand fisted in his shirt. I hated the sound I made when he kissed down my neck. Some mix of defiance and surrender. He bit just below my ear and I saw stars. This doesn't mean anything, I gasped. Doesn't it? He whispered against my throat. No, it's just pressure release. My nails dug into his back. Sure. He licked the corner of my jaw. Say that again when you're not grinding on me like a... I cut him off with my mouth. We collided like two storms, clashing, breaking things that hadn't even formed yet. When I shoved him down onto the blood-stained table, he laughed. When I climbed over him, lips and teeth and hands everywhere, neither of us were pretending anymore. We weren't enemies. We were fire and oxygen. We burned. After, I sat on the edge of the table, breathing hard. My shirt was ripped. My mouth tasted like blood and sweat and something unholy. Lucian lay back, staring at the ceiling. For once, not talking. I dressed slowly, neatly, like control could be stitched back on. He watched me with something unreadable in his expression. You're good at pretending you regret it, he said. I don't pretend, I said. But you do regret it. I buttoned my collar. I don't feel anything. You're a worse liar than me. I met his eyes. We needed a release. That's all. No, you needed me, he said. I didn't answer, because silence hurt less than truth. Chapter 6, The Ghost Town. I didn't speak to him the next day. Not a word. We walked miles through the hollow backstreets of the East Sector, our boots crunching on broken glass, ash coating the sky like snow, and I said nothing. Lucian didn't push. Not this time. He looked at me sometimes like he wanted to, but I kept moving. Forward, always forward. I didn't know where I was going. Only that if I stopped, I might start thinking. And if I started thinking, I might feel something. And I couldn't afford that. Not here. Not after last night. Not with him. We found shelter in an abandoned train yard by dusk. Concrete walls, steel bones, rusted silence. Lucian pushed open the door to an old maintenance office, kicked the broken chair aside, and dropped his duffel with a grunt. I stood in the doorway, staring at nothing. You gonna brood there all night, or are you coming in? He said. I didn't move. He sighed. You're really good at pretending you don't exist. I'm better at pretending you don't. That one landed. He looked away, didn't speak for a moment. Then, you think we made a mistake? I didn't answer. You think I crossed a line? I clenched my jaw. You didn't cross it. I didn't. No, I invited you in. And that's the part one can't fucking stand. I said. I sat down on the floor, back against the wall. My legs hurt. Everything hurt. But it was the silence that pressed in hardest. The weight of everything I hadn't said. Lucian sat across from me, quiet for once. Why do you do that? I asked. He looked up. Do what? Turn everything into a game. He shrugged. Because if I stop playing, I remember why I started. I watched him. He didn't meet my eyes. You ever think about what you were before all this? I asked. He laughed under his breath. You mean before I was a weapon? Yes. He picked at a scratch on the floor. I was 9 when my uncle locked me in a trunk for failing a recon drill. I froze. Lucian didn't stop talking. Spent 2 days in there. Pissed myself. Passed out from heat. Next time I failed, he used a lighter instead. Didn't take long to learn. That what you wanted to hear? He looked up. No, but thank you for telling me, I said quietly. He blinked like he didn't expect that. I told him something, then. I didn't plan to, but it slipped out raw and stupid. I was 17 when I realized my father was grooming me to replace him, not because he trusted me, but because I was the only one he could control. Lucian tilted his head. What happened? He tested me, sent my boyfriend to deliver fake documents to the wrong people. I warned him not to go. He went anyway, I said. I looked down at my hands. They found his body a week later. Lucian was silent. My father said it was necessary. Said I needed to learn what happens when I let personal feelings interfere with business. So I buried him and learned. I laughed, bitter and low. Lucian stared at me for a long time. What did you learn? That I'm not allowed to love anything. Later, when it was dark, I lay down on the ground, coat under my head. Lucian stayed up, perched on the windowsill, watching the street like a dog on duty. His voice came quiet through the dark. You think you're heartless, Vale. I know I am. No. You're just scared of what happens when you stop pretending to be. I rolled onto my side, facing the wall. Get some sleep. He didn't push again. But later, when I thought he was asleep, I felt him move closer. Just enough for our shoulders to touch. Just enough to let the heat of him bleed into me again. I didn't move away, and maybe that was the mistake this time. Or maybe it wasn't. Chapter 7, Control Freak. I don't panic. Not publicly. Not privately. Not ever. But when the walls close in, when the ghosts start whispering in a voice that sounds too much like my father's, when my mind starts chewing through worst-case scenarios like broken glass, I don't panic. I just break quieter than most people. It started with a tremor in my hand. I was trying to read a map, tracking the route back to Syndicate territory, but my fingers wouldn't stay still. The roads blurred. The ink looked wrong. I set the map down, rubbed my temples. Lucian noticed. Of course he did. You're grinding your teeth again, he said. I am not. You do that when you're about to lose your shit. I looked up sharp. I don't lose anything, except your patience, and your pulse rate. I said I'm fine. Lucian raised both hands, backing off. All right, keep pretending. Let me know how it works out. It got worse. By late afternoon, I was short of breath. The safe house felt small. Every wall was a threat. Every sound was a blade. I stepped outside into the alley, breathed in the cold air, felt my knees go weak. Lucian found me 10 minutes later, leaning against the brick wall. Adrian. I didn't answer. Adrian, look at me, he said again, firmer. I did. Barely. His eyes narrowed. You're having a panic attack. No, I'm not, I said. Then you're doing a great impression. He stepped closer. I tried to wave him off. Don't touch me. But I was already sliding down the wall, breath too short to stop it. Lucian caught me before I hit the ground. Hands firm. Warm. Breathe with me, just copy me, all right? He said. I can't. You can. Right here. He took a slow, loud breath, exaggerated so I could follow it. In. Now out. I hated him in that moment. Hated how easily he took control. How gentle he was with me. It was humiliating. But I copied him anyway. And it worked. Eventually, the pressure in my chest lessened. My hands stopped shaking. Lucian kept his hand on my back the entire time. Not pushing. Just there. He was watching me like I was something breakable. Don't look at me like that, I muttered. Like what? Like you care. He didn't answer right away. Then he said, I don't. Not yet. That should have stung. Didn't. Felt honest. Maybe that's what scared me more. Later that night, I sat on the edge of the bed in the temporary safe house, staring at a cracked mirror. My hair was a mess, shirt wrinkled. My posture, usually perfect, was bent. Exhausted, Lucian walked in, drying his hands. I didn't look at him. What do you want? Nothing. Then leave. No. He sat beside me, close, not touching, but I could feel him. After a long silence, he said, You don't have to do everything alone. I scoffed. That's rich, coming from you. I've had people, they just didn't last. He said. I don't want people. You want control. I turned to him. I need control. Why? Because if I don't have it, he wins. Lucian nodded slowly. Your father. I didn't answer. That was answer enough. Lucian reached out. His hand hovered, then rested, lightly on my thigh. Not sexual. Not possessive. Just real. I didn't shake him off. And for the first time since this marriage began, I felt like maybe I didn't have to keep holding myself together alone. Just maybe. That night I didn't lock the door. I don't know if it was weakness or hope, but I left the door open. And when Lucian came in, hours later, barefoot and quiet, he didn't say a word. He just sat down beside me on the mattress, leaned back against the wall, and let our shoulders touch again. No tension. No war. Just the kind of silence I didn't want to end. Chapter 8: The Informant's Price. We met the informant in an abandoned bar with bullet holes in the ceiling and mold in the whiskey bottles. Neutral territory. A third-party broker. Formerly Vale, currently freelance. Martin Slade. Double-crosser. Coward. Cockroach. The kind of man who stayed alive by selling everyone else's skin. Lucian hated him on sight. I didn't blame him. Slade leaned against the bar, fiddling with an empty shot glass. Didn't think you two would make it out of Southborough. Word was you were carved up in pieces. He said. We're full of surprises. I said. He chuckled. Yeah, I bet you are. Slade laid out a map. This tunnel line still runs hot. Old syndicate route. I can smuggle you both out. Vale sector clean, but I need reassurance. Lucian leaned forward. No. I didn't even know what he was refusing yet. But Slade smirked like he'd been expecting it. I don't need money. I don't even need favors. What I need is proof. He said. Of what? I asked. That this marriage isn't fake. My stomach dropped. Slade grinned wider. See, rumor is you hate each other. That this is just a smoke show. If I get caught helping you, I'm dead from both sides. So I need proof the alliance is real. Something I can show my boss to keep my head on. Lucian crossed his arms. You want a sex tape? Slade shrugged. Don't need full frontal. Just something convincing. A kiss. Touch. Bite a neck. Show me some heat. I stared at him, ice flooding my veins. No, absolutely not, I said. Slade raised both hands. Then no route. Enjoy the back alleys, lovers. I walked outside. The night air was damp, thick, stinking of diesel and rot. I leaned against the alley wall and exhaled slowly through my nose. Lucian followed me out. Said nothing. I could feel him watching me. Waiting. I won't do it, I said. He was quiet for a beat. Then, we'll die if we don't move tonight. I don't care. Yes, you do. I turned sharply. You think this is nothing to me? That I can just let you touch me? Like that? In front of him? I know it's not nothing, but I also know we've done worse things for less reason. He said. I hated that he was right. I hated that part of me wasn't afraid of the act, but of how easy it might be. I looked at him. He didn't look smug. Not this time. Just calm. Serious. Dangerous in that quiet way I was beginning to fear more than anything else. Fine, one kiss. 1 second. Then we're done, I said through gritted teeth. Lucian tilted his head. 1 second won't sell it. Then make it look good. Just don't make it real. We went back inside. Slade looked delighted. Lucian took his time walking toward me, like he was savoring the lead-up. I stood still. I didn't move, didn't breathe. He reached me, paused, and for 1 single second he looked me dead in the eyes. No jokes, no games. Last chance to back out, he said. I whispered, just get it over with. And then he kissed me. Not rough, not forceful. Slow, dangerous, like he was unraveling me with his mouth. His hand slid to the back of my neck, holding me just enough. Not possession, not dominance, just presence. His tongue brushed mine, and I tasted heat and smoke and something I couldn't name. Something that made my knees buckle. I hated how easy it was to melt into him. How much I wanted him to keep going, even as my mind screamed for space. When he finally pulled back, his lips were parted, eyes darker than they should have been. I turned to Slade, trying to keep my voice even. Was that enough? Slade blinked. More than. We got the map. We got the exit route. And I didn't speak a single word on the walk back to the safe house. That night, Lucian sat on the windowsill smoking. I sat on the edge of the bed, stripping off my shirt. You okay? He asked like it was casual. I don't need a check-in. You're shaking. I'm cold. He dropped the cigarette into a rusted cup. Walked over. Stopped in front of me. You're not cold, he asked. I didn't look up. You're embarrassed. I laughed, sharp, bitter. You think I care what Slade saw? No, I think you care what you felt, Lucian said. I looked up then, furious. You think you're some kind of truth serum, Knox? You think touching me gives you insight? He didn't rise to the bait. He just knelt in front of me and said, No. But I think you've never been touched by someone who didn't want to own you. Silence. My throat locked. He reached up slowly, touched the bruise on my jaw. I'm not your father. I don't want to control you. Then what do you want? I asked. He didn't smile, didn't joke. You. But only if you want me back, he said. I didn't answer, but I didn't walk away either. And when he brushed his fingers down my arm and kissed the inside of my wrist like it meant something, I let him. Chapter 9 Death Games. Slade betrayed us. Of course he did. We were halfway through the tunnel route, dark, stinking of rot and old crime, when the steel gate slammed shut behind us and the lights cut out. Then came the sound. Not guns. Not footsteps. Cheering. We were dragged out by men in masks. Lucian took down 2 before they managed to taser him. I didn't fight. Not out of fear. Out of calculation. I needed to know what game we'd been dropped into. Turned out it wasn't a game. It was a show. We were thrown into a ring surrounded by concrete, iron mesh, and screams. Blood soaked the floor in places. This wasn't a syndicate court. This was off-grid, run by someone with a taste for spectacle. Pit. A fight club. A slaughterhouse. We were the new act. I stood up slowly, body aching, vision adjusting to the floodlights overhead. Lucian staggered to his feet beside me, wiping blood from his mouth. Well, guess it's date night, he muttered. Charming. A voice boomed over the PA. Welcome our lovers from the blood wedding. Let's see if they bleed together. The gate at the far end screeched open. 2 men stepped out. One held a spiked bat, the other a machete. Lucian immediately moved in front of me. No, don't, I said. Adrian, I'm not watching you die for me. His jaw flexed. Then you better start moving. They came fast. Lucian met the first with a brutal shoulder tackle that knocked the bat clean out of his hand. I ducked the second one's machete swing and grabbed a broken pipe from the floor. Felt wrong in my hand. Too light. Too real. My heart thundered. Not from fear. From decision. Lucian fought like a storm, blades, fists, instinct. The kind of violence you only learn when your childhood had no windows and too many locks. But even he couldn't protect me forever. One of the attackers circled me, cut across my arm. Not deep, just a warning. My body froze. Then rage took over. I swung the pipe and heard the man's ribs crack. He screamed. I hit him again, and again, until he stopped moving, until I was covered in his blood. The crowd went wild. I dropped the pipe. It clanged against the concrete like a gunshot. Lucian turned toward me, one hand still clutching a knife dripping red. He looked at the body, then at me. Something in his face shifted. Not judgment, not pity, recognition. Later, after we were dragged out of the ring, we were dumped in a back cell. Both still breathing, barely. Lucian crawled over to me. His hands went to my arm first, checking the cut. Then to my face. You did what you had to, he said. I killed him. He was alive, and He cupped my face, firm. Adrian, look at me. I did. You survived. That's all that matters. My hands were still shaking. Blood on my palms, under my nails. I didn't think I could. You can. You just did. I exhaled. Does it ever get easier? Lucian looked away, then said, No, but it gets quieter. Later that night, I lay on the floor, Lucian's jacket over both of us, his chest against my back, his hand wrapped around mine, grounding me. I didn't want to sleep, but I didn't want to be awake either. And for the first time since I was 17, I let someone hold me through the guilt. Not because I needed to, because I wanted to. Chapter 10 Bound by Fire. Lucian collapsed 20 minutes after we escaped. One moment, he was limping beside me, cracking a joke about the bloodstains on my collar, and the next, his legs gave out. He hit the dirt hard. Didn't move. Lucian. No response. I dropped beside him, hands already moving, checking his pulse, his breathing. He was burning. Blood soaked through the makeshift wrap around his side. Too much blood. I peeled the jacket back and saw the wound. Deep, ugly, jagged from that fight in the pit. He must have taken the knife when I wasn't looking. Or maybe I had seen it and just didn't want to believe he was bleeding for me. Fuck. We were in the middle of nowhere. Just outside the industrial zone, in the hollow shell of a burned-out car garage. I dragged him inside, hauled him up onto a slanted table. I groaned under the weight but held. Lucian groaned too, barely conscious now. "Stay with me," I whispered, tearing his shirt open. He blinked, sluggish. "You undressing me already? We just got out of bed." "Shut up. Mean." He passed out mid-smirk. I stitched him. His body burned under my touch. Fever was setting in. I found a half-burnt kettle in the debris, filled it with snowmelt, boiled it over a makeshift fire, and pressed the steam to his skin. I sat with him for hours, wiped the sweat from his neck, changed the bandage, watched his face. He didn't look like a killer when he was unconscious. He looked like someone who'd been fighting since birth and still hadn't found a reason to stop. At one point, he woke up, looked at me, said, "You're still here." I nodded. "Try not to die." He smiled, weak. "Would it ruin your day?" "Only mildly." His eyes fluttered shut again. But not before he whispered, "You're different when I'm bleeding." That night the storm hit. Cold wind howled through the broken walls. The fire snapped, nearly dead. Lucian shivered hard. I crawled into the makeshift cot beside him and pulled him into my arms. He didn't resist. He just curled into me like it was the most natural thing in the world. I held him, his head tucked under my chin, his breath warm against my throat. He didn't say anything for a while. Neither did I. Then he whispered, voice cracked and barely there, "Why are you doing this?" I didn't answer. He moved slightly, cheek brushing mine. "Adrian." "Because I want to," I said. Quiet. "Not out of duty?" "No." He was silent for a beat. Then, "That's worse." "Why?" "Because if I die now, I'll know what it felt like to be wanted," he said. I pressed my lips to his forehead. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like a veil. I felt like a man trying to save the only person who ever saw me. Chapter 11, Truth and Teeth. We made it to an outpost 2 days later. Lucian was still half limping, but alive. Fever fading. Jokes returning, bad ones, quiet ones, but still there. I didn't push. He didn't ask why I hadn't left. We were both pretending not to notice how we'd stopped sleeping apart. The outpost was off-grid Veil Tech, one of mine. I keyed in the access code, got the door open, and finally connected to the secure line. The first call I made was to my analyst. "Give me everything, Slade's location. Movement in the Southborough trap. Anyone who pulled strings we didn't see," I said. They were quiet for a beat. Then, "Adrian, there's something you need to see." An hour later, I watched the footage. Grainy security cam pulled from the ambush zone. A man in a dark coat talking to the mercenary commander. Face mostly shadowed. But not enough. I recognized the gait before I recognized the voice. When he turned toward the camera, just once, just long enough, I felt something twist behind my ribs. It was Ezra Knox, Lucian's older brother, dead for 5 years. Or so we thought. I didn't speak. I just sat there and stared at the paused frame. Ezra, the golden boy, the prodigal heir, the one who'd vanished during the Old Territory War and never resurfaced. Everyone said he'd been executed by a rogue faction, but he wasn't dead. He was behind the coup, the trap, the arena. I turned and found Lucian behind me, leaning in the doorway, eyes dark. "How long have you known?" I asked. "Known what?" he asked. "Don't." He stepped closer. "Adrian." I stood, held up the frame. His brother's face frozen mid-turn, mid-command. Lucian's expression cracked. No, that's not possible. He died. I buried his dog tags." He whispered. "Then someone buried the wrong body." Lucian's breath went shallow. "Why?" I said nothing. Because I already knew. Power. Control. Ezra had vanished because he didn't want to inherit the Knox name. He wanted to own it without strings, without blood pacts, without Lucian, and we were his obstacle. Lucian looked like someone had pulled out his spine. He wanted me dead, he sold me out, he said. I think he wants us both dead. Why? Because you chose me. Silence. He sat down hard on the nearest bench, head in his hands. I don't get it, he raised me. He taught me to shoot, to fight. He was the only one who... He broke off. I knelt in front of him, carefully, slowly, pressed a hand to his knee. Lucian. His eyes met mine. Blue, cracked, haunted. This isn't your fault. His voice cracked. It feels like it is. It's not. I moved my hand higher. His fingers met mine halfway. Held on. Not tight. Just steady. He was shaking. Not from weakness. From loss. That night he didn't speak. He just pulled me onto the cot and held me like a lifeline. His breath on my neck. His arms around my chest. His silence, the kind that screams. I didn't sleep. I just laid there, listening to his pain bleed out into the dark. And I realized something horrible. Something true. I would kill Ezra Knox. Not for the Alliance. Not for revenge. For Lucian. Chapter 12. Home is a battlefield. The first thing I did when we crossed back into Vale territory was shave. I stood in front of the mirror and watched my reflection like it was a stranger. There were cuts on my throat, new scars on my shoulder, blood I still hadn't scrubbed from beneath my nails. I picked up the razor. Steady hand. Cold water. Control. Ritual. Every swipe cleared something away, but it didn't bring back who I was before the fire, before the pit, before him. Lucian watched me from the doorway. He didn't say a word until I finished. Then, "You're going to kill him, aren't you?" I met his eyes in the mirror. Yes. The briefing room was packed with ghosts. Syndicate lieutenants, intel runners, enforcers who hadn't seen my face in weeks. My father's old inner circle flanked the table. Most had written me off, assumed I was dead or compromised. They didn't expect me to return standing taller than ever, with Lucian at my side. He didn't wear a suit. He didn't need to. His mere presence commanded silence, like a knife pressed to a throat. I started the meeting without permission. The ambush in Southborough was orchestrated by someone who understands both syndicates intimately. I said. Eyes flicked around the room. I dropped Ezra's image onto the table. This is who we're hunting. Murmurs. Someone swore under their breath. Cyril Vale leaned forward. Ezra Knox is dead. No. He's hiding behind the corpse of his reputation. Lucian spoke next, his voice sharp enough to silence the entire table. He ordered my execution, and Adrian's. If anyone still doubts our alliance, let that end now. He stepped beside me, not behind, not separate, beside. I let the moment hang. Then I spoke again. I'm taking operational command of both East and Central sectors until this threat is neutralized. If anyone has a problem with that, speak now. No one did. Of course not. Because I wasn't asking. Later, Cyril followed me into the war room. He closed the door slowly. The old predator's smile danced at the corners of his mouth. You've changed. I've evolved. He studied me like I was a chessboard he no longer understood. You're starting to act like a real leader. I've always been a leader. You just preferred when I bled for your agenda. I said. A pause. Then, to my surprise, he nodded. I underestimated what he'd bring out in you. Lucian. You hate him, but you need him. I turned to him. No, I hated him, and then I didn't. That night, Lucian sat on the rooftop. City lights below us. Wind cold. The skyline looked like something waiting to be rewritten. I joined him without asking. He passed me a cigarette. I took it. We smoked in silence for a while. Then he said, You think we'll make it? Through the war? No, through us. I looked at him. The bruises on his cheek. The scar on his lip. The hand wrapped loosely around mine. Yes, I said. Even after we kill him? Especially then. He didn't smile, but he leaned in, touched his forehead to mine, and whispered, Then let's burn everything down. By morning, the orders were issued. Troop placements changed. Safe houses reinforced. Routes locked. Lucian took over command of Nox enforcers. They followed him like wolves to blood. I took back the Vale intelligence sector. They followed me like shadows to flame. We weren't partners in theory anymore. We were at war. Together. Chapter 13 Blood Heir. Ezra Knox waited for us in a cathedral built on corpses. An old syndicate stronghold, long abandoned, hollowed by fire and forgotten deals. Every brick reeked of old blood and old power. Fitting. He always did like symbolism. We found him at the altar, suited in black, calm as a priest waiting to preside over our execution. Lucian stepped forward first. I followed, every step echoing with the weight of 10 years of silence. Ezra looked up, smiled. "Little brother, you brought your husband," he said. Lucian didn't flinch. "You brought traitors." Ezra spread his hands. Perspective. The moment was still, dead quiet. Then Ezra tilted his head, eyes on Lucian. "I taught you everything, how to fight, how to lead, how to survive. And this is what you do with it. You marry into the family that tried to bury us?" he said. Lucian's voice didn't shake. "You didn't teach me how to survive. You taught me how to obey. There's a difference." Ezra's smile dropped. "I gave you everything. You left me in a cage. You were a weapon. I was sharpening you. You weren't sharpening me, you were breaking me," Lucian said. Ezra looked at me then. "And you, Vale, what's in it for you? You think you're in love? He'll gut you the second you give him a reason." "I already gave him dozens," I said. Ezra scoffed. "Weakness. No loyalty," I said and stepped forward. Lucian matched me, 2 lines converging. Ezra's men raised their weapons. Lucian didn't hesitate, he drew and fired. 1 shot, clean to the nearest guard's neck. And then hell began. The firefight was fast, brutal. We moved like we'd trained together for years. Lucian took the left, barreled through the front line like a wrecking ball in human form. I dropped the back line with precision, 2 headshots, 1 kneecap, 1 kill by blade. Ezra didn't move. He waited, like a storm waiting to open its throat. When the last man fell, it was just us. Lucian stepped forward. Ezra pulled a knife from his coat, tossed a second one to Lucian's feet. "Let's see what you learned without me." Lucian didn't even look at me. He picked up the knife and lunged. I didn't interfere. Couldn't. This wasn't my fight. This was something older. Wounds in the blood. A reckoning forged in childhood silence. The fight was brutal. Close. Violent in a way that wasn't about killing, it was about remembering. Every slash and punch screamed. "Why did you leave me? Why did you hurt me? Why did you make me this?" Lucian bled first. Then Ezra. Lucian took a stab to the ribs. Ezra took a knife across the face. They didn't stop, until Ezra faltered. Lucian grabbed him by the collar, dragged him to his knees. "I loved you," Lucian said. Ezra spat blood. "And that made you weak." Lucian looked at me. I nodded once. Then he drove the knife into Ezra's heart. No hesitation. No mercy. Ezra collapsed. Lucian stood there. He didn't cry, but his hand trembled when he dropped the knife. I stepped forward, pulled him into my arms. He didn't resist. Later, we burned the cathedral. We stood in the snow and watched it collapse into flame. The smoke rose like a signal to every territory that tried to control us. We weren't pieces anymore. We were the players. Lucian turned to me. "It's done." Almost. I reached into my coat and pulled out the official declaration. Signed by both sides. I handed it to him. He read it in silence. Then looked up. "You serious?" I nodded. "Equal command. Joint control. No more puppet masters." He studied me, then signed it, and for the first time he smiled without any blood in it. Chapter 14, a new contract. Took a year to rebuild. Blood doesn't wash out easy. Not from floors. Not from hands. Not from reputations. But we did it anyway. Together. The new headquarters was cleaner. Brighter. Less knives in the walls. The Veilnox Alliance had a new name now. No family banners. No inherited empires. Just initials on glass and power written in contracts we actually meant. I sat at the long table, same place my father once ruled from, and watched our people work. Real people. Chosen. Loyal. Ours. Lucian strolled in late, as always. Black shirt, jacket open, 2 knives on his hip just to annoy security. His hair was longer now. Messier. His mouth still the same crooked smirk that made people nervous and made me feel known. He dropped into the chair beside me, kicked his feet up on the polished table and said, "You look bored, husband. I look focused. Same thing with you." I didn't argue. He reached into his coat and pulled out a folder. New intel. Nothing explosive. But there's some idiot trying to muscle in on our west border. I scanned the file. Send 2 reps. No blood unless they get loud. Lucian stretched, arms behind his head. "You're getting soft. You're getting old." He grinned. "Touché. Later. Our home. Yes, home. Not a hideout. Not a safe house. An actual house. Steel gates. Bulletproof glass. But books on the shelves. Plants I let him talk me into. Blankets that smelled like firewood and something almost domestic. Lucian sat on the couch, feet bare, scars out like he didn't care who saw. I came in from the kitchen. He looked up from the file he was pretending to read. "You're thinking again," he said. "I do that." He tilted his head. "You do that when something's eating you." I sat down beside him, stretched my legs out. Then I said, "Do you regret it?" He looked at me. "The marriage. The war. Me." He didn't answer immediately. Then, "Do you regret choosing me?" "No." "Then there's your answer. We didn't need rings. We had scars. We didn't need vows. We had choices. And every day we stayed. Every fight we walked into side by side. Every night we went to bed with our backs not turned. That was a new contract. Not signed in blood, but built in something better. Trust." Lucian rested his head on my shoulder. And in the quiet of our warless home, he murmured, "Love you, Veil." I didn't say it back immediately. I just kissed the top of his head, held his hand, and whispered, "I love you more."